everyone, welcome back to the Earthdawn Survival Guide, the podcast for all disciplines, paths, players, and game masters. With your questers Josh and Dan, I am Dan.
I am Josh.
And on today's episode, we will be discussing all things thaumaturgical, part 4? Yes, because we're going to discuss Illusionist spells from Magic Deeper Secrets, 3rd and 4th Circle. So we're going to get to those and cover all kinds of things. By the way, you want to reiterate that there's a Kickstarter going on?
Yes. We're recording this episode at the same time we recorded the previous one, so as of right now, the Kickstarter hasn't launched yet, so there's no updates about where it is in terms of goals. Go back to the previous episode for a lot more information on that. It is available on Kickstarter. It includes a whole bunch of different books and some various other Earthdawn swag, so check that out.
And by the time this episode drops, you got about 10 days to 2 weeks, something like that?
Yeah, something like that, because it will, let's see, it will be, it'll have been running just over 2 weeks at the time that this episode is expected to drop.
Yep.
So you've got a little more than a week left.
Yeah, about 8, 9, 10 days. So get on that if you haven't already, and empty your wallet, because I know I'm going to. Just give me everything.
Yeah, don't empty your... Unless it is money that you can actually afford to spend. Look, we appreciate your support, but stuff is hard, yo. I don't want people to hamper themselves economically just to get this stuff. All of this stuff will be available after the campaign closes. There is no rush. If you can't afford something right now, go ahead and take care of that. It will be available.
Yeah, it'll be there later. It'll get there. We'll get there. Okay, so on to our 3rd Circle and 4th Circle Illusionist spells, because we've done this for all the other magicians, and we're just going to get everybody caught up on these as well. Our beginning 3rd Circle spell for Illusionists, Conceal Tracks, a 2-thread spell, and as far as I can tell, this one is new?
Very likely. It doesn't sound familiar, although the effect that it does is pretty straightforward and seems right up the Illusionist's alley. It is an illusion spell that hides tracks.
That's kind of obvious in the title.
That's exactly what it says on the tin.
The spell was created by Captain Obvious.
Yeah. It can protect up to the Illusionist circle in individuals. An animal counts as an individual for the purposes of this spell. So a horse and his rider would be 2 individuals. Searching for the tracks counts as a sensing test. It can be cast on a given group's tracks once per day, and only affects tracks made after the spell is cast. The base duration is 2 hours, but each additional success on the spellcasting test adds an additional 2 hours to it. Certainly, a 2-hour duration will allow you to put some pretty good distance under your feet while it's in effect. But it's pretty straightforward. Probably most useful in terms of stealthy overland travel. You are behind enemy lines or, in some kind of situation like that. That's what you're looking for.
Absolutely. I did find out this used to be a 4th Circle spell that got moved up to 3rd Circle because I think it's not powerful enough to be necessary to learn at 4th. So it's just one of those, made it a little bit easier.
Oh, it was an Illusionist spell previously, just got lowered to Circle?
Yeah. So they made it access to it earlier in your progression. So it used to be 4th, now it's 3rd. So we're good there. On to False Floor. And this one didn't change at all. So it's original. Yep. So it's redeveloped, but it was a previously existing spell. This is a 3-thread 3rd Circle spell. So we're talking about some serious threads here for the Illusionist. Pull this stuff off.
It does, again, last for, in this case, rank hours, so it lasts for a while. It is an area effect spell. What it does is it creates the illusion of a trap. Like it's an illusion of an obviously concealed trap trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Which seems weird, but basically the idea is you make people that might be pursuing you or might be trying to get into a place believe that there is a trap there, and therefore deal with the place accordingly.
So this is to delay them.
Yeah, this delays them. They come in and go, oh, look, we found a trap here. It's a good thing. And the spell kind of indicates what kind of trap it might be, it basically will delay them, cause them to try and figure out some way to disarm or disable or otherwise deal with the trap. But of course, since there isn't a trap there isn't any way for them to do so.
Yeah. So it's a nice delaying tactic.
Yeah, it is kind of a delaying tactic, a time waster for those that might be trying to infiltrate or something along those lines.
Yeah, fair.
Nothing super fancy with regards to this. This is another example of using illusions to mess with the environment in a way to hamper or cause problems for people.
Fair. This is a new one. Hidden Weapons. This is also a 2-thread spell, but it lasts rank minutes. And this is, again, Captain Obvious made this spell. Conceals the weapons carried in plain sight. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it does cost strain to cast the spell, which is a little bit unusual.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, the weapon that is marked with the blood that results from taking the strain becomes effectively invisible or ignored by anybody who might observe it. Interacting with the weapon allows those around them to make appropriate sensing tests, and any active search for weapons is also a sensing test. Drawing the affected weapon immediately ends the spell, so it does not allow surprise attacks on its own. But
Fair.
It might allow you to, if you're going into a negotiation where weapons would not normally be allowed and you are perhaps expecting some kind of double cross or betrayal, this could potentially allow you to bring a weapon in or get a weapon past a checkpoint or, any number of kind of situations where you can do that. It is not as effective as the thief talents that allow you to hide weapons. Still pretty decent.
Yeah. It's not quite as good as the magic trick I saw once upon a time where a hypnotist told someone to forget the number 8 and then had them count to 10. And they went 7, 9, 10. Every single time, backwards and forwards. Not quite the same.
Situational use, pretty straightforward.
Hey, good to sneak weapons into some places.
Yeah, additional success levels increase the duration, so...
Yeah. Go ahead and try this in iOpos. Give it a shot. Tell me how that worked for you. Otherwise, on to the next third circle spell for Illusionist. Papers, please. This is a 1-thread spell. So far, they've had no 0-thread spells. And Papers, please, as far as I can tell, is a brand new one for Magic Deeper Secrets for the Illusionist.
Yeah. To summarize this spell very quickly, if you are familiar at all with Doctor Who, this is psychic paper.
Oh, okay. I am not. So,
to explain to Dan, and to those at home who might not know what I'm talking about, in the 21st century version of Doctor Who,
yeah.
the Doctor has basically this little wallet, essentially, that he can flip open, and we, the viewer, see that all that it shows is a blank piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
But it is psychic paper, and therefore it displays to whoever is looking at it whatever they expect to see. So he basically will could flash it and go, yeah, I'm the health inspector. That kind of thing.
This is my passport. This is my badge. This is my FBI identification or whatever.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It shows whatever the viewer expected to see because it's psychic. It picks up on what they expected. That's what this spell does. It causes official documentation, symbols of authority, etc. to appear authentic and appropriate. The spellcaster shuffles briefly through some objects, selects ones, and makes a test. If successful, the affected object appears as it should be based on the observer's expectations. So a bundle of associated papers is one object, but travel papers for multiple people would therefore be multiple objects, one for each person.
Yeah.
The object must be the appropriate size and shape, or it requires an additional success. For example, a rock would require an additional success if you were trying to make it look like a badge of authority, but any papers would not require additional success to be used as a cargo manifest because that's normally kept on paper.
Yeah.
Inspecting the object triggers a sensing test. If the story that's being presented doesn't match what the inspector expects to be present, whether they are correct or not about what might be there, they do get a bonus to the sensing test for each major detail that doesn't match, and would otherwise normally raise a red flag. This can also be used in conjunction with quote-unquote legitimate forgeries to make them even more effective. So if you've got a forgery of travel papers, you can use this spell with them to make them even more effective at withstanding scrutiny. But again, like, really straightforward. All of the spells that we have had thus far are true illusions. They are full illusions and therefore deal with sensing tests and all of the stuff that goes along with there.
Yes.
But yeah, it's, again, pretty much what it is, but allows a bit of flexibility because it does, to a certain degree, is shaped by what the observer expects to see.
Yeah.
If you're trying to smuggle goods into a city past the gate or whatever, you could use this to present the appropriate manifests or
to the guards,
documentation or whatever to the guards to allow yourself to get.
Absolutely. No, I like it. It's situational, but almost every illusion spell you're going to come across is going to be situational because you can't just walk around making illusions all day long. They have to be for a purpose.
Right.
Mostly, I guess. And really what you said about this being a true illusion, the next spell is no different. It is Time Flies, which used to be 7th circle, but moved up to 3rd. This is 3 threads, and it lasts rank hours.
And it is an area effect spell. What this does is anybody that enters the affected area has their temporal perception altered.
Yes.
Either thinking that less time has passed or that more time has passed up to the illusionist when they cast the spell. To kind of spin a scenario here, if you cast this on the guard shack, right, if it's a large enough area, you cast it on the guard shack when the guards are in there and they're supposed to go on patrol every hour, you might change the time, their time perception within that space, so that they think it's only been an hour, but it's actually been 2 hours that pass. Mm-hmm. So they actually don't patrol as often as they otherwise would. Or you may have do the opposite effect where somebody is in there, they think more time has passed than actually has.
Yes.
There is a limit. The base limit is only to a factor of 2, but you can weave additional threads to play with that factor. And of course, extra successes increase the duration. But yeah, it messes with time perception, which clever players, I'm sure, can find a use for.
That's the trick about playing an illusionist. You need to be a lot more clever than most other spellcasters.
Like a lot of illusionist spells, there is kind of a lot of, I don't want to say GM fiat, but GM interpretation that needs to come into play in terms of how things work out on this.
Yeah.
But not a particularly complex spell conceptually, but there's a lot that can be done with it. All of the third circle spells here are like extended duration illusions that do stuff.
Various things.
Yeah, mess with perceptions, deceive, do any number of fun illusionist things.
And that's the whole point of them. So the question I've asked every single circle we've done these things is, would you trade any of these out? I mean, yes, you can purchase them with legend points later on. That's quite obvious. Would you trade them out initially? Would these supersede any of the other third circle spells from the player's guide? And I will list those again for those who don't have the book handy like I do. And then I woke up, Blinding Glare, Fog of Jeer, Nobody Here, and Phantom Warrior.
What does And Then I Woke Up do again? I don't recall that one offhand.
Enhances the ability to perceive the truth of things. So you pierce through illusions.
Oh, it grants you bonuses to sensing tests.
You are correct. +5. Yeah.
Okay.
So you had the veil of illusion pulled off of you, so you woke up and saw reality.
Right.
Blinding Glare is just a flash of light.
Blinding Glare is pretty useful. Fog of Jeer is kind of cool because that's
Misty
the one
Tendrils.
That's similar to Fog of Fear, but it does its own thing.
Yeah. Nobody Here makes
Nobody Here is a classic. Phantom Warrior, that creates like illusory.
Yeah, 3 phantom images of a character making you more difficult to hit in combat, so forth and so on.
Oh, it's like a mirror image. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything that I would go, oh, you really would want to take this over any of those. Partly because all of these spells in Deeper Secrets are a little bit more circumstantial. I mean, if you're going to be doing a game where you might be doing a lot of espionage or a situation where, like, Conceal Tracks, Hidden Weapons, Papers, Please, like all of those are espionage spells.
Yeah.
Time Flies conceptually I just really like as a spell because of, I'm sure, like a billion different creative uses can be come up with for that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not in a game where, like, they're a little bit more circumstantial than most of the spells out of the player's guide.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It would largely depend on what's going on with the game. But I don't think ultimately Conceal Tracks, if I weren't doing a game where I thought that might be coming in handy, I probably wouldn't go for it. False Floor, similarly, like it's a cool concept. I like it as a spell, but again, probably not a huge priority. But Hidden Weapons could be potentially useful.
Absolutely.
Papers, Please, and Time Flies, Papers, Please is fantastic. Like, that would probably be my top choice out of all of these third circle spells.
Fair.
Just conceptually, I really like it. Time Flies would probably be a close second.
Yeah, I think Papers, Please is like the quintessential illusionist spell. I'm going to make something look like something else.
It is circumstantial, but it is so flexibly circumstantial. Whereas some of the other circumstantial spells in here with the Conceal Tracks and stuff like that are a little bit more limited in their use. Papers, Please is just so wonderfully open.
Yeah.
And Time Flies I like just because of the potential weirdness that you could do if you're creative in terms of what's going on.
Yeah, it would completely...
It doesn't actually affect the flow of time. It just affects your perception of the flow of time, which is an important distinction.
Yes.
So it allows you to sort of manipulate situations in that way. You couldn't use it to, even with additional successes, like, oh, I'm going to cut my perception down or increase my perception double so that I can, in 8 hours, do 16 hours worth of meditation or something dumb like that.
Yeah,
It doesn't actually allow you to do anything more. It's just your own internal clock is offset by the effect of this. People who have time blindness might not understand like how that feels.
I was just going to bring that up, actually.
I personally have a reasonably good sense of the passage of time. In the sense that I'll, like, after doing something, I can go, oh, I think it's about X time, and I'll usually be within, like, 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty good at, but I just, like, there's such potential cool stuff that can be done there. They're just neat little spells.
Absolutely. I agree that
even if they all have, like, multiple threads and extended durations.
Well, that's the point of an illusion, is to make it last long enough so that it's believable. But I think that the spells in the player's guide were essential for the player's guide, because they're more useful. These are good to have, nice to use, can be useful at some point. But I think the player's guide is essential for third circle spells. Not talking about the other circles, third circle only. On to fourth circle, since we're getting further into the conversation. Fourth circle spell, Blazing Fists of Rage. I'm pretty sure illusionists were waiting for this one to come back. Blazing Fists of Rage used to be a first circle spell. It's been moved to fourth circle because I think it has some oomph to it. However, the first zero-thread spell we've talked about all podcasts this time around for this episode, but this is instant duration, lasts for 2 rounds, and has some nice benefits.
Yeah, it's got a secondary effect. So the damage is instant. The damage that it deals is instant. The secondary effects of the reduction to physical defense and other action tests are the ones that have the extended duration, similar to all of the spells that have, like, damage plus something else going on. I think the difference... I haven't looked up the original Blazing Fists of Rage to check. I think the original Blazing Fists of Rage itself just did the effect and then you just punched people with it, and it, like, did extra damage or something along those lines. In this case, Blazing Fists of Rage, it is just like a damage-dealing spell, but the appearance is that your hands catch fire and you are punching the target's pattern.
Yeah.
Rather than potentially like an extended duration thing that's an enhancement like Flame Weapon or Arrow of Night or something like that. This is, it's just a damage-dealing spell, but the skinning of that, the visualization of that is that the illusionist's hands have mystic flames wrapped around them and they punch people, but it's still doing stuff like that.
Yeah, it's still a full illusion, though. So it's not...
Yeah,
but
this one is the illusion, as is the case with many of the illusory damage spells. There is also true Blazing Fists of Rage, which we'll talk about in just a moment, and it can be placed in the same matrix. So that
Yes.
the illusionist can cast either the real or the fake version without needing to take up multiple matrices for it.
Exactly. So on to Drunken Stagger. This used to be a 7th circle illusionist spell. It's been moved up to 4th to allow you to get it a lot earlier in your progression, but it is not an actual illusion. This just causes a character to become inebriated.
Yeah. It affects them, makes them effectively drunk, which penalizes their social defense and willpower-based tests. Their judgment likewise becomes similarly impaired, but there's no mechanical enforcement of that. It's really more of a role-playing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Once per hour, the target may make a willpower test to shake it off, but it's pretty straightforward. Again, like, this feels like another espionage/social manipulation kind of spell, but because it's not an illusion, it can't be disbelieved. The target is actually affected by this. And it's got a 2-hour duration. It is actually
it's no slouch.
A pretty decent amount of time for those penalties to be applied.
Yeah, I like the fact that it's a 4th circle spell and lasts for half that in number of hours, so 2 hours in duration. But there is a mechanical effect. You have a -2 social defense and a -2 to willpower-based tests because you are actually inebriated.
Because you are actually
and so you will make bad choices. Bad choices make good stories. So I'm all for the bad choices making good stories. And we can go from there. So I like Drunken Stagger. That actually is a neat little spell to have. I think getting people drunk on purpose causes bar fights, but that's just me. On to False Enchantment. This also used to be a 7th circle spell, but moved up to 4th circle. I'm not sure entirely why the change, but I think it's one of those, it's a full-blown illusion, and it gives any item fake magical abilities and a history with it, so kind of fun to mess with weaponsmiths and wizards, or bad guys you need to sell stuff to.
Yeah. This just makes an item appear magical. When the illusionist casts the spell, they imagine what kind of things the item can do, and it allows them to set a quote-unquote mystic defense for the magic item. People who investigate the item to learn what it can do may learn the false information, and it lasts for rank days, so it's actually got a pretty
nice,
healthy duration.
Yeah. Yeah, well, for 4 threads, it should last something. So I would imagine at least 4.
It's got a healthy number of threads. Extra successes on the casting increase the duration by 2 days, so it can last a while. This is a spell that existed previously. The primary purpose of this spell is to deceive people, to convince them that an item is magical when it otherwise actually isn't.
It's just a rock.
The only sort of drawback is that tests made to examine the item with magic are considered sensing tests, and so that is like the downside of it.
Yeah.
But because of the duration and how a lot of the, aside from basic astral sight, like obviously item history takes 7 days.
Yes.
To work. Like a lot of the things that would potentially break through the illusion take time, so there is time for the illusionist to scarper with whatever it is that they're after.
Well, and you've got at least 4 days minimum to get away with what you need to get away with before the weaponsmith or the wizard does the item history to figure that stuff out. Because after 4 days, I
would say that even astral sight, it would fake people out and make them believe that it's magical when it isn't.
Yeah.
But you need to balance what you set the mystic defense as in relation to the sensing test. Because as a 4th circle spell, the sensing difficulty on this is not going to be super high.
Yeah.
So it's probably not going to stand up to examination by anybody with real skill.
Fair.
Setting the mystic defense high is not going to protect it from being sensed. So I don't know the numbers offhand, but let's say that
I think it's 14.
Difficulty on this is a 14. Yeah,
I think it's 10 plus the circle of spell.
Or it might be 11 plus the circle of spell.
Yeah,
I forget where it starts off. So, but like 14, 15, right, would be the sensing difficulty. There wouldn't be much sense in setting the mystic defense at, say, 20, because if they roll more than the 14 or 15 sensing but not the 20, then they will notice that it is an illusion. But this is also something that would be well enhanced by false sight. that talent that illusionists get that allows them to increase the sensing difficulty.
Ah, okay. I found the table. So the spell circle, dispel difficulty is 10 plus the spell circle. Sensing is 15 plus the spell circle.
Yeah. It's the dispel difficulty plus an extra success.
So
you'd be looking at a 19.
That's significant.
Actually, that's a pretty decent. Yeah.
Yeah. That's significant. That's harder to pull off for most at fourth circle. Anybody higher than that, a little easier, but you're still going to need a pretty decent roll. not gonna lie.
There aren't a lot of ways to pierce the effect of this illusion. Just handling a sword is not going to potentially give you a sensing test that it is not magical.
Exactly.
It's only when you're like examining it with astral sight or casting spells on it that might determine that, or anything along those lines. And it's got a reasonable defense against that because of the sensing difficulty.
Yes.
And then you enhance that with false sight, and you're even better off.
Absolutely. And the way magical items work in Earthdawn, you have to know things, weave some threads and so forth and so on to be able to use the magical properties. So people would believe it was magical without actually being able to prove it was magical without spending some time and some effort on it. So well done on false enchantment. I like it. On to friend or foe. This used to be a fourth circle Nethermancer spell, and this got moved over to the Illusionist at fourth circle. So the circle didn't change, just the school of magic did. And
it got changed to be an illusion because I think it does the same thing that the Nethermancer version did.
Yeah.
And the only reason that it was a Nethermancer version previously was because what essentially happens is the caster casts it, makes a spellcasting test, and if successful, everyone within the range of the spell, which is 20 yards, friends, enemies, and the caster, if successful, they all take on the appearance of corpses with the same height and build as the spellcaster. You basically can't tell who is who. They all look the same.
Yep. That's just
because
fun.
of the appearance as corpses, that's probably why it was Nethermancer originally, but this is really an illusion effect.
So I agree. I'd be happy with it in either place, but I think making your own little zombie horde is not a bad idea, and more up the Illusionist alley than Nethermancer's alley, but that's also me.
All action tests are sensing tests, though even knowing it's an illusion is not enough to pierce it. Just knowing that it's illusion is not enough to bypass that sensing test. You still have to do it.
Fair. I got you there. So on to, I like friend or foe. It's fun. It's, of course, like every illusionist spell, it's situational, but I think it's a good situation to be in where I can create my own little zombie horde, just for kicks. On to Puppet Show. This is new, but it's a 2-thread spell at fourth circle for creating an animated figment. So this is a figment spell, not an illusionist spell. You might want to remind everybody what figment means.
Right. So figments are obviously illusions. It doesn't have a sensing difficulty. Anybody who actually interacts with it or does something that would trigger a sensing test on it automatically is aware that it is an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
So those are often used as distractions or minor things. Like in this case, creates the image of a creature or humanoid name giver. It can't be a specific individual, so you couldn't use it to, say, create the image of Captain
King Garrulus
of, or whatever. Yeah. And it can't leave the area of effect, but the spellcaster can concentrate and control it, includes making appropriate noises and moving around. It can be used as a distraction to draw guards away from a spot or anything along those lines. It will cause a sort of momentary distraction. It is not something that will provide a long-term deception the way that some of the other illusion spells would.
Yeah. So basically you take a drawing of something or an image of something that you've seen before, an animal, and you can recreate it temporarily to exist in a illusory form. Yeah. Like a 3D hologram running around your ankles because you miss your pet dog. I don't know. Just coming up with a random thing off the top of my head. So not bad. I like Puppet Show. It's a good little spell to have multiple uses on that one. On to Secret Door, which is also a brand new fourth circle spell. 2 threads as well, and this conceals a door or opening, not quite the same as Fun with Doors, which is one of my favorite spells of all time, especially the name.
This just creates an illusion to hide a door, window, hallway, or other opening like that. just basically hides it. It gives the appearance of the wall or whatever it is being unbroken across that stretch. Passerby are allowed sensing tests if they know there was once an opening there, see someone interact with it, or are specifically looking for it. The area effect, which is a 2-yard cube, must be sufficient to cover the entire opening. You can increase the area with extra threads, but it's going to hide a door. Again, like worthwhile, maybe you're trying to escape from something, you are fleeing down a passage, and you throw this up behind you to hide the fact that there was a passageway or a door or something like that there. Not foolproof, but, again, could delay or get you out of a tight spot.
Absolutely. It's like the whole camouflage. I mean, secret door is just camouflage in a city.
Yeah. This is something that would potentially work well with, I think you could potentially make this into a ward. A permanent enchantment on a door or something like that to permanently conceal it with the spell.
Yeah. That's incredibly handy.
That's a possibility in addition to the short version of it, but it already lasts rank hours, so it's got a pretty good thing going.
No kidding. I think Secret Door, like I said, is camouflage at use at any time you need it. So this might be the one where I would say, out of the player's guide, maybe Secret Door would supplant something else as far as necessity is concerned, but that's maybe me. We'll take a look at the list in a minute or so. But yes, as you said, we've been waiting for it all podcast. True Blazing Fists of Rage. This used to be at first circle, but I think the level of power involved moved it to fourth circle because it is got some stuff to bring to the party and a 0 thread.
Yeah, so this is the real version. This is the non-illusory version of the spell.
This one brings the pain.
It does the same damage, unlike some of the other illusory/true damage spells. Both versions do the same damage. The difference being that the true version, instead of providing a penalty to the target, provides bonuses to the caster. It will provide a +2 to the next attack or spellcasting test.
Yeah.
And again, it can be placed in the same matrix, so you have the option to kind of go either way.
Or. Yeah. So, no, I played with an illusionist character who, played by somebody else, who loved Blazing Fists of Rage, and true Blazing Fists of Rage is a 1-2 punch. Pun intended. Had to say so. But they absolutely lived and died by that, and since they could cast it on other people, I think the original versions they could cast on other people, so it was fun to do. I'm not sure. Maybe my memory is faulty. Either way.
I'd have to go and look up the spell.
Yeah, because it was like first edition many, many years ago. So my memory is probably not perfect.
It was in Arcane Mysteries, because it got introduced later, I'm pretty sure. No, wait. I think it was a...
Yeah, we were playing first edition, so I can guarantee it was many years ago. So
yeah, I know it was in first edition. I don't remember whether it was in the core book or whether it got introduced later. Now I want to find out.
Fair.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I always thought True Blazing Fists of Rage and Fists of Rage were like way back from first edition core book.
They are in Arcane Mysteries. They were not in the original
core book. Hey, Josh's memory is still ironclad. You were right, it was in Arcane Mysteries.
Because the damage spells that Illusionists got were their little like bolt thing. I think they got it second circle.
Ephemeral Bolt.
Ephemeral Bolt, thank you. And True
Ephemeral
Bolt. Yeah, no, second circle, okay.
Okay, that's where I was off.
Yeah, because Ephemeral Bolt and True Ephemeral Bolt were second circle, so the Illusionists didn't have a damage-dealing spell at first circle originally.
Mm-hmm.
Blazing Fists of Rage and True Blazing Fists of Rage got introduced in Arcane Mysteries as first circle spells, but they were limited to be touch range.
Yes. So, okay. Together we got this figured out. My memory was faulty in a number of ways. We'll get there. All right. So we went through our new list in Deeper Secrets, starting with Blazing Fist of Rage, True Blazing Fist of Rage, Drunken Stagger, False Enchantment, Friend or Foe, Puppet Show, Secret Door. Any of those take precedence over what's in the player's guide. And I'm going to run down the list again for everybody listening. Clarion Call, Great Weapon, Notice Not, which I think is essential, Phantom Lightning, Stop Right There, Suffocation, or Unmask.
Blazing Fists of Rage and True Blazing Fists of Rage, pretty high interest because their secondary effects are pretty useful.
I agree. And I think Secret Door is up there as well.
Yeah, Secret Door could be useful. Friend or Foe could be useful. Drunken Stagger would also be nice. I think probably my lowest choices, False Enchantment and Puppet Show, kind of further down.
Fair.
A clever or creative player can probably use any of those spells to do interesting things.
Yeah, I think they're pretty much,
I would say that the Blazing Fists of Rage spells are probably not as high a priority as they would have been in the past, because we've got Phantom Lightning. There are other damage-dealing spells that Illusionists get.
Yeah.
Phantom Lightning is equivalent Circle.
Yeah.
But still, they're nice with their Will +4 Mystic damage, and then either penalties to the target or bonuses to the caster, depending on which version you cast. Those are pretty nice to have. And I don't know, does Phantom Lightning, since you've got it right there, does that have any threads?
One thread.
One thread, yeah. The Blazing Fists of Rage spells have 0 threads, so that is something as well to keep in mind.
Yes.
And the fact that they can both be in the same matrix.
Also helpful. Yeah.
There is a knack in Deeper Secrets for Phantom Lightning that if you know Lightning Bolt allows you to put Phantom Lightning and Lightning Bolt, which is an Illusionist spell, in the same matrix. But those are like enhanced spell knacks that you need to learn. And you basically need to be both disciplines, obviously.
Yes.
Or something to that, like you need to be able to know both spells, obviously. Might be able to get away with it as a versatile human spellcaster.
Yeah.
With elementalism or something, but I'm not sure. I'd have to check the details on the knack, and I can't be bothered to look at it right now.
That's okay. It's a knack.
Similar with Phantom Fireball.
Yeah.
There's a knack that allows you to do that.
Yeah, because, Ephemeral Bolt is 0 threads. True Ephemeral Bolt, 0 threads. Those are both first circle, so I agree. Blazing Fist of Rage doesn't need to be higher up the list, but useful if you're doing more combat than you are other things in Earthdawn campaign. But I think fourth circle is where the Illusionist kind of leveled out as far as Magic Deeper Secrets, and the Player's Guide as far as necessity of spells. I think they're all on the same level. I think really these are almost interchangeable, and the list just broadens out your options and capabilities nicely, so that with other disciplines we've gone through and other circles we've gone through, it's one of those, Player's Guide's still more essential. These are nice to have. I think for the Illusionist, fourth circle is where they kind of evened out and said, wow, I really have to now really decide which one I want to pick up, because they're both about even as far as the options are concerned. But that's me. I'm not playing an Illusionist at the moment, so I don't know. Were I would have a difficult time choosing which spell from which book to choose. But that's a nice problem to have, and I don't envy the player who has to make that decision right now. So anything else about the third or fourth circle Illusionist spells? I like these. These were nicely done.
There's a lot of nice flavor, a lot more actual illusions compared to the spells out of the Player's Guide that are circumstantial, but as you said earlier, that's kind of the case with any Illusionist spells or any illusions that you're going to be dealing with.
Yeah.
Out of the Player's Guide, there are fewer illusions, but the spells that are in there, like Clarion Call, are more generally useful, or you're more likely to find uses for them than you would, say, Secret Door. But they're all still pretty decent spells all the way around. Yeah,
I'm impressed with the Illusionist spell kit as far through the fourth circle so far. I am loving what I've seen, and I can't wait to delve into fifth circle for all of these in the Deeper Secrets book and the regular Player's Guide, because we can finally do those all in one shot. I like that some of these got moved up from 7th to 4th to give a little more oomph to the Illusionist earlier in their build. So I like the decision behind that as well. Looking forward to the rest of these as we build out more spells. Really can't wait to get through more of them. So yeah, these are cool. One of these days I'm going to make an Illusionist. One of these days I will play one. So any final thoughts?
No.
Cool. Until next time, folks, go cast some magic for your legend.
Good night, everybody.